Thank you all for joining. Hopefully you guys don't fall asleep after a lunch coma, but appreciate you guys coming back down here. Carolyn Murphy, I'm the VP of WARC Americas. We are the marketing effectiveness platform. We look at advertising and marketing through the lens of data and science and what's working and why it's working. And so all about effectiveness. And I'll let my wonderful guests here introduce themselves. So I'll start with you, Matt.
Sure. Matt Handy. I am the head of marketing at LightForce. Like I mentioned before, we 3D print braces for your teeth. So we're the only ones in the world who do that. Founded out of Harvard, and one of those brands we think you're going to be hearing about a lot more in the Boston tech scene.
I'm Emily Whittaker, and I'm with Vista, formerly known as Vista Print, for some folks who might need reminders. But we strive to be the marketing and design partner for small businesses everywhere, drawing out what's remarkable about each of the small businesses that we support.
And hi, I'm Adriana Fudala. Thanks for having me. I oversee the Americas marketing team for Clark's.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think some of you guys might be like, how do these three brands connect? But there is a connection here. And if you think about it, they are all really disruptors in their space. And the brands have been around for a while. We've heard about Clark's being a almost 200-year-old brand and really now moving the brand forward into new ways. Vista now modernizing, not just a print company, but moving into full-service marketing capabilities. And LightForce taking kind of the science of orthodontics, making it cool, making it tech-savvy. So my first question to you all is, how do you instill innovation in your teams? So this whole, our topic today is about marketing innovation, very broad. How do you instill that in your teams, in your culture of the workforce? Matt, do you want to start off?
Yeah, I love this topic, talking about culture. I've been at companies that have had really bad culture, stressful. My background is primarily in the startup space, and then I've had amazing teams, and Tara McRae was how I learned what a really good, functioning, close-knit, long-term friendship team can look like. And so I just think about how do you bring people together and help them inspire and make them kind of think differently. I think inspiration is a thing that whether you're managing an intern or a co-op or you're managing a team, you have to think about how you're getting your team excited and thinking outside the box. So just some examples for us. We have a speaker series that I bring in someone from the industry to talk with our team, an AMA, if you will. We've done a sound bath as a team, for those of you who know what that is. In the beginning of the New Balance video, you saw those bowls with those noise, so we've done something like that. So go to the ICA. So just thinking about not just prioritizing and making sure they go from point A to point B, but also leaving them with a sense of creativity, inspiration is really important.
I think at Vista, it's been really interesting, especially over the last couple of years in the pandemic. Constraints have really brought forth the need for us to innovate. And we've also seen the challenges that our customers have faced, and that has provided ample inspiration for us to innovate on behalf of them. So what do they need in order to be successful? They need traffic. In the early days of the pandemic, we all thought as a team, what can we do to help them? What is unique about Vista that we can offer? Face masks was one of those things. How do we normalize and make face masks easy and comfortable, especially in the cases of kids to wear? How can we think about, and then if we think about what the birth of small business that is, or the rebirth of small businesses that is happening in the post-pandemic, what do they need in order to be successful? It's a lot more than print and marketing collateral. It's brand, it's imagery, it's how do they come forth and highlight what is remarkable about them, whether that be through their logos or through any of the copy or the creation that they're doing. And so I really think for us, it's been empathizing with our customers, understanding, working with the constraints that, wow, this environment has just been incredible in providing through the pandemic, and using that, channeling that for how we can make progress on behalf of our customers.
Matt, you talked about you came from startups. I think one of the things we talk about with my team and the whole global marketing team at Clark's is acting as though we are a startup. So even though we are almost 200 years old, really over the last 2.5 years, everything's changed for us. And so we need to think about things differently. We really talk about that at all levels of the marketing team. And we get people involved. We you can call it scrappy, but a lot of my team has actually been featured in some of our TikToks, and to see the team get excited about it and actually take part in it, they're starting to come with more and more ideas. So it's actually coming from every aspect of the team, and the more that they see, the team sees their ideas. James on my team talked earlier about great ideas. The more they see those put into action and actually connecting with our consumers, the rest of the team gets really excited about being the person to bring that next great idea forward.
I love that. I think the consumer wants to see behind the curtain more these days, right? So like putting the team in TikToks, awesome.
Yeah. That's right. That actually segues to a question I was going to ask later, but I'm going to jump in and ask it now a little bit, is a bit around some of the marketing that Clark's does specifically and that you guys do at LightForce is really around the product design and putting the product design out in front. And why is it important the consumer knows how the product's made? So obviously you guys are with 3D printing. You guys are really candid about where your products are from, how they're everything that goes into making them at Clark's. Why is that so important, that message to your consumer of the product design process?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, I think we've found that in some ways it's a little bit surprising, but consumers like to get that peek behind the curtain, right? So, sometimes it's as simple as saying, how do you clean your wallabies and make sure they still look great? Other times they want to know is something machine washable, and we can make some really fun content showing them how to throw something in the washing machine. But with footwear a lot, and I'm sure with orthodontics as well, you're talking about some technical things that, yes, we walk in it every day and you expect it to be comfortable, but consumers actually like to hear about the different pieces of it. And, earlier the team talked about partnerships, and we work with some really amazing partners as well. And so they want to learn a little bit more about where did that relationship come from. And so we found that some of our great content is really giving them that peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, and I think for me, I forget who mentioned Scott Galloway, Professor Galloway before, but I just love the guy. If you don't know him, he's got great podcasts. But he has a way of thinking about this that I think is really helpful. For us, 3D printing is in our DNA. All of our hardware is 3D printed. It allows us to move as fast, our hardware as fast as software, which is great. But getting back to Professor Galloway, he talks about using a lens, a filter for your marketing decisions. That is, first, is it differentiated? Is it different from the space? Do your customers actually give a shit about that differentiation, or is it just you thinking you're cool? And then finally, can you own that, authentically own that for your brand? And that's been something that's been really helpful for us as a new growing brand that's doubling in size pretty quickly. And so, helpful to make decisions, helpful to take this 3D printing as a part of our DNA and making sure that we're telling a story that hits all of those things.
That's great. I think the authenticity has been carrying through a lot of the conversations today so far, so it's really important. And on that, I guess, from Vista and you guys at LightForce, you're really looking at B2B marketing, right? Vista, you're marketing to small businesses, and you guys are marketing to orthodontists and dental practices directly, right? So, Emily, can you kind of kick us off on a little bit and talk me through? You guys have actually, both of your brands have done some cool things where you guys are taking the back seat. Your brand name is taking the back seat, and you're letting your customers shine, and you're letting your small businesses show. But you guys are the ones buying the media. You guys are the ones putting the marketing efforts out there. Can you kind of tell the audience a little bit more about what you're doing and how that's resonating with everyone?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, a big part of our core value proposition to our customers is to be that marketing and design partner. What does that mean to be a partner? That means you're showing, you're helping, you're providing on their behalf. And the best thing that we can do, especially in how we've been activating, is to make the assets that we have available to us as a very large company available to our small business customers. And an example of how we're doing that is through the Celtics partnership. Thank you very much for your kind words about how we've been activating. But for folks who know, we are the jersey patch sponsor on the Celtics. And with that comes amazing benefits that Vista could enjoy on their own. But in fact, what we do is we turn those over, and we've created an activation called Small Business of the Game. And by doing that, after the first quarter, right as you're going into a certain section, we have the small business. We offer them how can they actually get logo services if they need it. How does their business look professional for this moment? Because this is a big moment. How do we make you feel big? And do you look great doing so? And so we'll do that. We give them tickets. We activate that way. That has been such a success for us. We've replicated that with other partnerships, whether that be with Liverpool or the Commanders in DC. And so that's just an example of, well, that's what it means to be a partner. We're putting you and giving you your best opportunity to have the best light possible, and we'll support you in that. And absolutely, Vista takes a back seat. If our small businesses look great and there's an association to Vista, then we look great. And that's exactly what, we're living what we're doing. That's exactly what we're going after.
I love that. I think making your customers, something you said, making your customers feel big, I think is huge. Before I get into, there's this thing that my team has heard me say a ridiculous amount of times, which is, and it's been said a number of different ways up here before, but nobody cares what your brand, nobody cares what you have to say about yourself, right? Like, they just don't. Gone are the days of selling cigarettes to pregnant women, right? Like, the answers are out there. And so we really try to get out of the way of our brand and put our customers in the spotlight. And one of the ways that we do that really effectively is through video. Video was a medium that we took a really big bet on. I mean, I was at a startup at this company when we first started. My first hire was a videographer. So a team of 3, and one of them is a videographer. And I remember talking to Tara, and she's like, "Are you sure? That's pretty aggressive." But it's been hugely transformational. Now we have a team of 10 with 2 videographers, and we do these mini commercials. And Colin up there from the video team flies around the country. We build this beautiful content that has their story up front. And there's a connection to LightForce, but it's subtle and it's not in your face. And you're going to see now we see a lot of the massive multi-billion-dollar companies that are in our space are doing similar type of content, which is always reassuring they're behind us.
That's great. I think it's so great that you guys are letting your at the end of the day, your customers really shine, giving them a platform for them to market themselves, if you will, whether it's locally or at a bigger network and all that. Just making sure that's on. But so I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and bring it back to you, Adriana, because there's one of the biggest things in marketing right now, especially for brands, is retail media networks and navigating those. And Target last year, their retail media network generated $1 billion. We actually have some insights on WARC that Clorox saw a 40% increase in their ROI after their ad spend after advertising on Target's retail media network. And now and I know Macy's has come out with one, DSW. You guys are doing a lot of work and have great relationship where they're partners with their clients. You guys are great partners with your retail partners. Talk me through, how are you guys showing up on these retail media networks? What's working for you?
Yeah, I would say the obvious one is Amazon. I mean, the biggest, and I'm sure most of us have spent way too much money there and time, but we've learned a lot through that experience, right? So Amazon continued to layer on new things to test and try, had really great reporting. So as we go into some of the individual media networks, whether it be Macy's or DSW, we've already done a lot of testing and trying through Amazon, and not that it always works in the same way, but because they're just starting out. So Macy's media network's been live a couple of years, but they continue to evolve and innovate in their own way, and they're really receptive to the back and forth communication of what's working and what's not and what we need. And we're finding that, we might have tried live streaming with Amazon, and now as we continue to have we're already having meetings with these great retailers because we want them to continue to buy our product for their consumers. So they're really receptive to the types of things we're doing, and we're able to actually show some of the tests. And they don't seem to get offended by seeing somebody else's because they're trying to continue to improve their own media network. So they're really open to new ideas.
The other week is all around, you could have all different outfits and people can kind of style it however. So can you talk me through a little bit more around just some of that influencer strategy and that you guys are using with those on those retail networks?
Yeah, again, I would say Amazon's been one of the best for us to test and try. We were one of the first to work with them on doing a live stream. And, it's funny, I had feedback from all sorts of people internally, and they said, I absolutely, people who, I feel like aren't easily convinced, who had watched the hour-long live streams with 2 of Amazon's influencers, and they were riveting. I mean, it was really exciting. I found we were trying to add things to our own carts, and I'm like, wait a minute, we work here. We don't need to do this. But, I think it's leaning into what works. So DSW uses some of their own influencers, and historically they actually put them, in their own creative campaigns, and it works really well because they know their consumer really well. They know who loves Clark's, and they have a lot of great data. So with our retailers, there's a lot of, again, that data sharing and trying to combine our brand with their brand and really kind of finding that sweet spot in the middle.
That's great. That's great. Then thinking through kind of the post-COVID world, and we've talked a little bit about it, we've heard other folks talking about it a bit, is obviously everyone has had to pivot, to think the favorite word of 2020, and everyone's had to pivot and innovate and challenge. And talk me through a little bit, obviously we know consumer behavior has changed so much, and we did a survey that like 73% of all marketers said that their number one priority in 2022 was around the changes in consumer behavior and adapting to that. So curious, you guys have all of you have done some different testings with whether it's unboxings or QR codes or SMS and getting into that. Can you guys talk to me a little bit through about kind of different ways you've innovated and tried new tactics? And because Tara and Chris were talking earlier about you've got to try new things, you've got to put yourself out there, you've got to see what's working. And so can you guys give an example of something that you've tried new?
Yeah, I think there's two things that jump out at me. One of them, for the holidays, a colleague, we put together, we wouldn't call it an advent calendar to be more broad, but we put together this advent calendar, and our customers were B2B to C, and this room gets that. We put together this advent calendar, and every day leading up to the holidays, there's a new question or opportunity for this orthodontic practice, so hundreds of orthodontic practices around the country. Does this challenge, they do a quiz, they put it on social, they tag us. So, something that we have to decentralize right now, we can't get in front of everybody, and it ended up being a massive, massive success for us that we're going to be repeating in the summer and the holidays, et cetera. There's that, and then the other one that, again, I don't think this is crazy innovative, but it is very successful for us, is doing our own version of a wine and learn. Right, so our customers, orthodontics around the country, bringing them on, sending them, I think it was like a $50 bottle of wine. I don't buy $50 bottles of wine, but that value exchange, having them show up and then being able to deliver on the content when they get there, transformational, crazy conversion rates for us with that. So probably would not have existed if it wasn't for the need to pivot.
I'd say we've definitely had to pivot a number of different ways. And I guess as I think about innovation in this space, we've done so in a couple of ways. One is that we wanted to be where our customers needed us to be, and that was in the height of the pandemic, with QR codes, actually. And so how do we make our customers needed their customers to come in and feel comfortable. And in order to do that, they wanted touchless or contactless payments. Well, we could partner with PayPal in order to bring that. And so we offered, QR codes on any number of products, so that the food truck, you could walk up and there was a car door magnet or a magnet that had the QR code, just scan and pay here. Or it could be a tabletop tent or anything. Restaurants needing to publish their menus. How do we be there? How can we be there for them with a product that serves their need, with a partnership that they can trust, that actually entices their customers? I'd say that's one example. We also know that our customers, where they are, has changed, and that how we engage with them has changed. And in the spirit of the wake of the pandemic, authenticity matters. And so we need to be in the channels where they are with stories that matter to them. And so we've really activated, I'm not sure this is industry innovation, but it's innovative for Vista, in that we've really activated an influencer program that's called the Vista Collective that brings a network of small businesses together through Instagram, where they can share their stories and subtly talk about how, on occasion, Vista is there to meet their needs or help solve problems or challenges that they're having. But what's been amazing about that particular innovation is the community that is come from that. And so we've really focused on building that in LA. And through storytelling on the impact of a restaurant, we've been able to do, the name is Chifa in LA, we've actually connected a number of small businesses who had similar needs, and that network is now self-fulfilling and helping themselves. And that, I think, is just community. That's where we've innovated. How can we build and grassroots, create that community of small businesses that matter, and how are we there when they need them to be with innovative products that serve their needs relative to the moment? I'd say that's how we've been doing it.
Both great examples. It's hard to follow that up. But one of the things Carolyn and I talked about a week or two ago when we met was on sometimes innovation coming from something you've tried before and it might have failed miserably. When I came on board to Clark's 2.5 years ago, I'm meeting all the different departments, and the first thing several people said was, don't even think about SMS, don't do it, I don't want to hear it. And I kept hearing it over and over, and but we kept seeing it in the market and felt like it was the right time to try it again, because why the heck not, right? We were trying things like live streams, we were getting into TikTok, and it just felt like the right time to say, let's test this, see if it works, and if it doesn't, we get out of it quickly. And we had a lot of learnings from those, people who had been with the organization longer than I had, but we've been really pleasantly surprised. So we launched our SMS program in, I want to say November or December of last year. Thank you to my team. And it's been really surprisingly successful. We have, in the Americas in particular, an older consumer, and I think we had even our own internal ideas of what he or she might be open to, but we've been really pleasantly surprised with the growth of our SMS list. So I would say, advice to others is, even if someone tells you on day one, don't try it, and even if you tried it and it didn't work, there might be the right time to test something again.
That's great. I love that you took the risk to try it again and to push the team and kind of convince people who maybe been there longer to say, no, let's do it. Now's the right time. So that kind of segues into another question I wanted to ask you guys is, we all in this room, we're all in this room because we care about innovation. We believe in innovation. And, for you three on this panel, and I'm sure many of you guys, your CMOs believe in innovation and the importance of it. So how do you guys convince your CFO that innovation is important? How do you convince your CFO to invest? So exactly, from your example, right? Your CFO, he or she may say, well, we did SMS and that didn't work. I'm not going to invest in that again. So what's the language you guys are using? What are the examples you're using to say, hey, give us the budget to do this?
You want to start?
Sure, that is the question
Hot
of the
topic.
day. Yeah. Ooh, how can I get started? And I mean, it's really interesting. Traditionally we are pivoting away from direct response TV or paid search as our primary channels, and we know that once you're in that mode, you're in a bloodbath. I mean, competitors are there, and we need to. I will quote my CMO: win before search. And how do we do that? We create brands that that people love and identified, and that they're proud to use. Well, how do we do that? Well, we invest in the storytelling that we're doing. That manifests through the Celtics partnership and the features and the highlights of what we're doing. It could manifest in the stories of, we're taking the Celtics partnership. We're investing in. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on the name? Power Forward program. Excuse me. Where we're reaching out and we're helping Black-owned small businesses in the Boston area, not only giving them a grant, but also helping them with the marketing and design needs that they have. And that, how do you measure the return on that? It doesn't. That doesn't show up in a spreadsheet. But the loyalty or the love or the stories that come from that is something that you can builds momentum, and then that builds momentum, and then it snowballs and it gets bigger and it gets bigger from there. And so, interesting that you're in this measurement space. It's a really difficult thing, but at the end of the day, it's dollars and cents, and what is the return? That's the tough question that we need to ask. And so we're asking ourselves, what do we need to believe? And what do our customers need to believe? And we're using that as a frame of how we're advocating for that investment.
I love that. A little bit of a different approach. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And the way that I know we talked about this question before, for me, it goes back to the relationship that you have with the individual above you, to the side, whatever that may look like. Is that set upon a level of innovation? Are you going into this strategy, planning with a sense of testing and learning and iterating? Is that a part of the DNA of the company? And so if you're not doing that and you want to make a bold, big decision, that's a hard fucking decision, right, to get over. And you can use data and research and all of the things that people have already said up here. But I think it starts with trying to build a relationship with those individuals you may have to go through to establish, to push the boundaries. Because if not, you're just going to be spinning your wheels and you could be spending time on other things.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add to that is, I agree with Matt in that, you have to have trust with your, CFO or whoever it might be that you're trying to convince. But I would say a lot of it is also in, finding different metrics to present that make sense, right? So for us, we do have a really strong wholesale business, and oftentimes, someone might say, oh, does a live stream really make sense with a DSW? And, our answer would be yes, and then, thankfully, when DSW buys more shoes next time, it may not be in the immediate ROAS numbers or ROI that we are more traditionally showing to a CFO or a regional president, but trying to find other metrics that prove that customer loyalty or the excitement and buzz around the brand that really speak volumes well and above ROAS.
That's great. I love your comment too about the relationships internally and everything, and coming up with different metrics and something different than maybe the CFO, whoever it is, has seen before. I think these are all really great and all really great. So we have a couple minutes left. I know, and I didn't want to see if there's any questions outside, or if there's anything that you guys want to have. Hopefully we're able to show that these three brands actually do have a lot more in common than you might think at first. Did you guys, anything last minute that you guys wanted to share at all, or anything before we jump to questions? Yeah, please.
This is like my favorite panel. Fantastic. Huge fan of all of you and the brands. Vista. So everybody probably knows it as Vistaprint. And I'm a huge fan of what you guys have done. In my 8-year-old daughter, when she started her slime business, you guys are who we went to through the pandemic. But anyway, transitioning into Vista. Can you just talk for a second about that transition? Because, it's hard when you're, $1 billion brands and all of a sudden you try to pivot in a direction to take the whole organization along with you. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, 100%. My daughter owns Puppy Pals, the dog walking business, which she also started in the pandemic, and of course she used Vistaprint business cards.
She had a discount.
Yeah. No, just kidding. So I think the transition to Vista has been incredibly exciting. I've been there for 13 years, and it was very much Vistaprint. We were focused on driving that print transaction and having, hey, buy this other print product, buy this next print product, buy this next print product. And as I think as we've looked back, especially in the wake of the pandemic, or during the pandemic, how can we really serve and be there for our customers? It's much more than print, and we know the value of having. You're talking about the relationship with your internal colleagues and stakeholders, but the relationship that we can have with our customers, we've got to serve them so much broader than on that print transaction alone. There's so much opportunity. I personally love talking to small businesses and understanding what their needs are. And so many of them, they light up when they talk about their passion. And that's the thing, the service that they're doing, they're providing, the thing that they're selling, or the art that they're creating. But when you ask them, how does their marketing go? They all shut down. They all sort of glass over and they're like, oh my goodness. Or, hey, where did you get your logo? Oh, my friend did it. I really want to change it. I don't like it anymore, but that friend moved away. And you're begging and you're borrowing and you're stealing, or, hey, do you have a website? I would love to do that, but between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m., I've prioritized getting my invoicing out or doing these other things. And so you start to hear the needs of what our customers need. And Vistaprint wasn't it anymore. They need digital services. They need, whether that be in the form of websites. They need design services, whether that be an icon, their logos, or how they're creating their marketing collateral. Absolutely, they need print. That will remain a signature service for us. But we know that the print was limiting and that we could do so much more. And I think our team members have really rallied around that mission. I think we all wake up and feel excited to serve our small business customers. And so this transition is very easy to do. And I think we've just started talking about it more broadly. So more to come.
All right, I love it. And I think with that, we are just about out of time. So let's give a big round of applause for this wonderful group of panelists.